Good morning. I would like to start today by having you listen to a story.
I began caring for Alyssa when she was in the ICU and still intubated and sedated. She was a 22-year-old who had been out the night before with her fiancé. They were to be married the next day. It was February and the roads were slippery. They skidded on the ice and they were T-boned on her side. She was the passenger. She wound up with a severe C2 fracture. Her cord was nearly severed and she had a small subarachnoid hemorrhage. In the following days, Alyssa's sedation was stopped and she woke up. It quickly became apparent that she was not able to move anything other than her eyes. The attending physician relayed the information to the parents about Alyssa's injury, that she was in the terrible predicament of being what is known as locked in, and that she was neurologically intact, able to think, cognizant, aware of her surroundings, but not able to move. She only had the ability to blink her eyes. They quickly made the decision to withdraw life support. Although surprised, the attending physician agreed, and plans were made to remove Alyssa from the ventilator that afternoon. I felt uncomfortable with this position and advocated my concerns to some of my colleagues, one of whom told me to stand back and document objectively. I felt the decision was Alyssa's to make and not her parents'. It had become apparent that she was fully cognizant of what was going on around her. I expressed my concerns to the physicians, and they disagreed, telling me there was no way we could prove her capacity. I was finally able to contact a speech pathologist who told me that we could indeed prove her capacity through the blinking of her eyes. Alyssa was informed about the severity of her spinal cord injury. She was told that she would likely die in a year from either pneumonia or a pressure ulcer. She would be dependent on a ventilator and require a feeding tube. Given these conditions, we asked her, would she want to live? She clearly blinked once, indicating yes, and then opened her eyes wide so that there was no confusion. Everyone in the room took a deep breath and sighed, that we all knew what she was telling us. She wanted to live. Alyssa and Joe were married within the month. I've since seen videos of Alyssa in her home feeding herself with a ventilator nowhere in sight. She has movement of 3 of her 4 extremities. Whenever I question if something isn't right, I think back to that day.
Courageous care surrounds us. What a beautiful story from Katie George of our Monticello chapter about the day she saved a patient's life. She did it even though it was not easy. She did it because her knowledge and instincts told her it was the right thing for her patient. Challenging care decisions and advocating for what is right takes courage. Despite her fears, Katie was relentless in assuring Alyssa's voice was heard. And by doing that, she assured a life-altering outcome for both Alyssa and her family. It takes just one courageous person to be a catalyst for change. Katie was that catalyst. And I'd be willing to bet that most, if not all of you, recall a similar moment when your courage made a huge difference in the life of a patient and their family. Author Gus Lee says we can use the transformational power of courage to lead effective change. Healthcare leaders, such as the National Academy of Medicine, recognizes nurses as being the professionals best positioned to transform healthcare. This means we, not others, own our practice. It means we, not others, design solutions that most effectively overcome barriers and drive improvements. We all want the healthcare system to improve. To make that happen, we need to be our boldest, most courageous selves. Because when nurses speak up, we inspire others to drive excellent patient care. We create a legacy of courageous care that makes a profound difference for our patients and their families. But sometimes, obstacles get in the way of delivering courageous care. For years, we have tried to understand the obstacles that block our ability to provide the best possible care at the bedside. This past year, we held specific chapter forums, used an online survey and webinar, and engaged social media to hear and better understand your experiences. We learned from these sessions lots of things that will help inform how we take action. It will help us become a focused force for change to overcome these frustrating and sometimes entrenched obstacles. I had the privilege to speak with so many of you who took the time to share your barriers to providing the patient and family-centered care that you aspire to. Topping the list are barriers like suboptimal staffing, abusive behavior from patients and families, bullying by peers, struggling with documenting in the EMR, and meeting ever-increasing regulations. Sound familiar? Because of our 24/7 presence at the patient's bedside, we are in the best position to identify barriers to excellent practice, contributors to unhealthy work environments, and areas of care in need of improvement. But identifying the areas that need to change is only part of the solution. We need to use our collective, bold voice to remove the barriers and improve work environments. So how do we as nurses do this? In AACN's webinar on barriers to practice, Mary Bylone provides a framework for overcoming impediments to practice. She tells us to ask questions that unearth root causes of barriers and educate ourselves on the problems we are trying to resolve. Once we know the cause of the roadblock and have objective data to support our solution, it's time to enlist others. Mary says, and I agree, that we must seek out opportunities to sit at tables with key hospital leaders to better understand and overcome these obstacles. The barriers also tell us that our efforts to define the ideal healthy work environments are as relevant and essential as ever. Just 2 months ago, we released the second edition of AACN's Healthy Work Environment Standards. The standards clearly cite the evidence that unhealthy work environments absolutely impact patient outcomes and nurses' well-being. Studies confirm that healthy work environments are not just vital to nurses and our fellow healthcare professionals, they are unquestionably linked to the optimal outcomes for patients and their families. We know from research and available evidence that inappropriate staffing can impact patient safety, clinical outcomes, and nurse well-being. Yet, when the work environment is unhealthy, the benefits of appropriate staffing are not fully realized because other elements are not in place. You have to start somewhere. And it makes sense for us to begin by reinvigorating our commitment to creating and sustaining healthy work environments. They are essential for providing courageous care. Our patients, their families, and our colleagues are counting on us. This past year, I've traveled all around and heard numerous powerful stories of courageous care. Stories of nurses courageously leading change that improve patient outcomes. I also met a lot of nurses from CSI, the AACN Clinical Scene Investigator Academy. I was inspired hearing from these frontline nurses and listening to them describe the impressive outcomes of their nurse-led initiatives. In addition to improving patient outcomes and nurse and family satisfaction, these projects led to substantial projected cost savings for their institutions. Here's what these nurse-led initiatives taught me. These improvements occur when nurses have protected time away from the bedside to think and plan together, when they can use this so-called non-productive time productively. The nurses who participated in CSI also say the experience helped them grow professionally. One nurse said to me, "This experience increased staff ownership of their practice and made staff more likely to question care." Questioning care and leading change are never easy. But when you lead change that overcomes barriers to practice, improves healthy work environments, and leads to better outcomes for patients and their families, many stand to benefit. When others appreciate the benefits of the change you inspired, your efforts can stimulate practice changes in other units and other hospitals, maybe even in other countries. That's why it's so important that today we act courageously to be a catalyst for change that drives clinical excellence. I think one of the greatest gifts we can give each other is to foster courage by serving as a role model and supporting one another. I liken this to being more like a Canada goose than a Maryland blue crab. I live near the Chesapeake Bay, and in August and September, one of my favorite pastimes is catching and, of course, eating blue crabs. While some of you use traps to catch these crustaceans, I prefer the more challenging method. You take a chicken neck and you tie it to the end of a string, and you throw the bait into the water. And then you either see or feel the line start to wiggle, and you slowly pull the line up, and as the crab, which is holding on to that piece of chicken neck, gets close to the surface, you net the crab. And then you throw that crab into a wooden basket, a basket with no top. There's no lid on the basket because the crabs rarely get out. Why is that? Well, because if one attempts to climb out of the basket, the crabs below grab hold and pull the crab back down. One of my professors called this crabism, pulling each other down. Sometimes we do that with each other. We hold each other back or pull each other down. We squelch our fellow nurses' courage. At last year's NTI Summit on Burnout, many nurses said that bullying by their peers contributed to an unhealthy work environment and burnout on their units. The study published by Beth Ulrich and colleagues surfaced that respect among nurses was a lot less than you'd think. Many of us have witnessed nurses talking about a problem related to care provided by a colleague, and yet not a single nurse had the courage to discuss the problem with that nurse. Well, I think instead of fostering an environment that mimics a basket of feisty blue crabs, we need an environment more like Canada geese. Many of you have seen geese migrating through the sky. You probably noticed they typically fly in a V-shaped formation, and geese fly in this pattern to decrease air resistance and add lift for the goose behind. If one of the geese becomes ill or injured, two other geese fall out of formation and stay with and protect the ailing goose. Isn't that great? The geese truly care for each other. That's the way it should be, right? Like geese, it is the courageous care we show towards our colleagues that strengthens their individual performance, encourages effective teamwork, nurtures a healthy work environment, promotes excellent care delivery, and fosters optimal patient outcomes. It doesn't mean holding them back or pulling them down. It means taking advantage of opportunities to provide meaningful recognition. It means sharing constructive criticism that aids our colleagues in their professional growth and strengthens their ability to provide courageous care. Courageous care also means helping one another navigate the path of lifelong learning and professional development. Our patients are increasingly complex. They often have numerous comorbidities and may rely on sophisticated technology to support organ function. At the same time, the changes in our healthcare system are rapid, rampant, and seemingly random. To overcome barriers to practice, champion healthy work environments, implement practice changes, we need to be knowledgeable on what current evidence suggests are best practices. We all need up-to-date resources and an arsenal of tools at our disposal to help with this ongoing need. This calls for all of us to commit to lifelong learning in order to provide the best possible care for our patients, body, mind, and spirit.
As a burn and trauma nurse, I feel very strongly about providing our patients with two very important things to help in their healing process, and those things are education and resources. When utilized to their full potential, I think these things can help aid in recovery and prevent complications. However, these things are sometimes hard to come by and even harder to convey to my patients. Unfortunately, many of our burn and trauma patients are injured in completely avoidable events. And a lot of these patients have concurrent mental health diagnoses that make their healing process much slower than other patients. While caring for these patients, some of whom are difficult to work with, I am given the opportunity not only to advocate for their physical health, but also for their mental health. And sometimes I think that's even harder than the physical burn care that we do every day. Even something as simple as taking the time to sit with a patient who has been diagnosed with a borderline personality disorder and feed them because their hands are too badly burned to feed themselves can be incredibly emotionally draining. In these situations, courage is where I draw my strength.
Abigail's story shows us precisely why providing courageous care can be so demanding. It can make us vulnerable to compassion fatigue, moral distress, and burnout. All of us can quickly suppress our ability to thrive when exposed to these phenomenon. AACN has partnered with our colleagues at the Society of Critical Care Medicine, CHEST, and the American Thoracic Society to bring attention to the problem of burnout. Burnout impacts up to a third of critical care nurses. As my colleague, Dr. Kurt Sessler says, look to your left, look to your right. It is likely that one of the three of you is suffering from burnout. So at our respective conferences during the last year, we offered forums to address burnout. As nurses, we benefit by educating ourselves on the symptoms of burnout. And we can take action to employ interventions that can boost our ability to care for ourselves and bolster our resilience. That's why AACN will soon publish a call to action about burnout. The jointly published manuscript will describe the causes of burnout and, more importantly, offer strategies for mitigating and preventing its harmful consequences. We must care for ourselves so we have what it takes to care for others. This past year has proved to me that while providing courageous care can be challenging, the rewards can be great. I appreciate hearing all your stories of how you provide courageous care. They made me realize again how much pride and satisfaction goes into caring for a patient, their family, or a colleague. The great actress Ruth Gordon once said, "Courage is very important. Like a muscle, it is strengthened by use. I love that. Like a muscle, strengthened by use. How do we develop those muscles and build our courage for the tough work we are called to do? How did Katie do it? Or Abigail, how do you do it? Well, I can't ask it of you if I can't demonstrate it myself. So let me share one more story. About a year ago, I was returning from a nice visit with my parents over Memorial Day weekend. I was headed home, making pretty good time. You know how traffic can be on holiday weekends. And then I came to the highest point of the Severn River Bridge near home when the traffic stopped. I saw something that concerned me. The woman in a car ahead of me got out of her car and was standing on the bridge. She was obviously distressed, and as I watched her, she put one leg over the side of the concrete barrier. I realized in an instant that she might jump from the bridge. Before I even knew what I was doing, I jumped out of the car and moved toward her. I called out, "Don't jump, you don't want to do that." It did no good. She now had both legs over the bridge rail and was sitting on the concrete edge with nothing between her and the very cold, dark water below. Once I reached her, I held onto her arm and gently stroked her back to try to comfort her and hopefully keep her from falling from the rail. "I'm sure there are people that love you," I said. "Don't jump." It still did no good. She didn't respond, and I was becoming increasingly worried that she would fall forward and take me with her. I was absolutely petrified. "I'm a nurse," I said. "I can get you some help." When I said this for the very first time, she looked at me. "I'm a nurse too," she said. She went on to tell me about her family challenges and why she wanted to hurt herself. Luckily, another person had stepped forward to help. He quickly bear hugged her and moved her from the rail. She was safe. The whole event seemed surreal. I'm telling you this story because I know you would have done the very same thing. And you have your own examples of how you live courageously every day. Because we're nurses, that's what we do. We don't even have to think about it. We see someone in distress and we react. And our experiences as nurses give us unique skills and ways of seeing people and helping them. I'm not here to tell you you should be courageous. I'm here to reflect to you, you already are. I emphasize this because I worry that you don't always see this in yourself. And you must see it and use it to build your resilience, to regularly recognize the rare gift that you have as a nurse. We all, everyone in this room, want to provide excellent care for our patients and their families. That is what drives us. It is our strongest instinct to foster healing, calm fear, alleviate suffering, inspire hope, and comfort the grieving. We want to know that our work matters, that the care we provide matters, and that we have made a lasting difference in the lives of others. That is what drives our compassion. It's what calls us to develop our courage muscles. It's what inspires us to lead the changes that improve outcomes. It's what demands that we maintain a strong knowledge base. And it's what whispers to us that we must take care of ourselves. We must renew ourselves. It's also what moves us each and every day to do the work we do. It says to us there can be no greater calling than to greet each new day with enormous pride and renewed joy, knowing that we provide courageous care. Thank you.